Hello, everyone. You are listening to the Truth That Heals podcast. I am your host, Ryan Anthony Hernandez. And if you've been following this podcast, you have seen my journey and hopefully you've seen my growth. I know for sure that when I started, there was a lot of fear. There was a lot of nerves and scared to tell my story. And at times there were moments of anger, frustration. And one of the reasons why that's there and why I'm not going to delete it is because I want people to see my journey towards healing, and to see the reality of how cults or abusive environments, toxic environments can really hurt someone, how it can really damage a person's life, a person's relationships. And at the same time, I want to show that healing is definitely possible. Now, I've been doing this for a little over a year. I honestly don't know. It's probably been 2 years. I don't know. I haven't really looked back. But doing this podcast has really given me a lot of peace and has opened the doors to me meeting some of the most amazing people. And not all of the people that I meet share the same beliefs or have the same religious background or the same experiences, but I have gained so much wisdom, so much, I can even say joy, by connecting with people who want to make a difference, people who want to share their stories. And even though in the beginning of doing the podcast, there was a lot of frustration and anger and at times sadness, I hope you can see that there has been a growth, and also that I do not harbor any hatred. But I hope that those who have listened, especially from the beginning, and those who have questioned, does Ryan Anthony Hernandez, does he hate the people in the cult? I hope you see and understand that I do not hate anyone, but at the same time, I'm a human being. I'm a person who does desire justice. I do offer forgiveness. Forgiveness is within my hands to give. Each person has the choice whether they want to forgive or not. And I do choose to forgive, but at the same time, I do want people to have awareness. So that's something that I want to make, to distinguish from the beginning of this episode, that bringing awareness does not mean that there's hatred or harboring anger. Because I remember in the beginning of doing the podcast, I just wanted people to be aware of what happened in this end times cult. And I wanted people to be aware, especially Catholics, because there are many Catholics out there who think, and not only Catholics, but Christians in general, who think, oh, there's no way that our group is a cult. Only New Age groups, only the yoga, or only the Hindus are doing the cult stuff, or only the Satan worshippers are doing the cult stuff. That's the confusion. So the thing is that even in Catholic groups, even in Christian groups, there can be a fanaticism which gets too well. Starting with a devotion, you can start off with a good devotion, a love for, let's say, praying, a love for the Bible, but then it can, if it's not balanced with faith and reason, if that faith and reason isn't balanced, then it can lead to a dark fanaticism, and then it can lead to cult tactics, as it happened in my life. And that's why I want to bring awareness, especially to the Catholic community, that just because a group or a priest or a nun, whoever, says that they're Catholic and that they're following the Pope, or maybe they're saying they're holier than the Pope, or maybe they're saying that they have the truth, never lose your reason. Never, your faith and your reason should never be separated. So always stay attentive to the red flags, always stay attentive to the dangers. And if it's a good movement and you're not doing anything wrong, then I go ahead, do positive things in this world. If there's a group that wants you to do good things and that they're helping you and that they're loving and they're supportive and it's not love bombing. And when I say love bombing, I mean where they pretend to love you. They pretend, but as time goes on, you see that they were just trying to recruit you. So if none of that's involved, by all means, uh, give your best with that group. That's just my opinion. But at the same time, always have your eyes open to some of the red flags. So I know that was a long intro, but real quick, you may have noticed that I have been away from doing any episodes, any podcast, especially in the last 2 weeks. And the reason is because of the heat here in, I was about to say here in the Philippines. I feel like I'm back in the Philippines. And if you're watching this video, you'll see that I'm constantly sweating. But no, I'm not in the Philippines. Today I'm in San Antonio, Texas, and the heat is just unbearable, but we're still going to go through. I'm still going to push hard and do this podcast. I really didn't want to do this podcast, but at the same time, I just really felt that I love doing this. I love bringing awareness and I love connecting with people. So for this episode, I wanted to talk about the experiences that I had, but in a different light, because there is there are questions that I had within the cult and um, or within the movement, and I couldn't answer those questions. I had to put those questions away and pretend that those questions didn't exist, but they bothered me. And I didn't have answers to them because I just ignored those situations. So, the thing that I want to talk about and what I want to ask or for this episode is, or what I want to answer for this episode is, was, sorry, the alarm is going off. Was I trafficked? Sorry. And what I want to answer for this podcast episode is, was I trafficked? And the reason why I want to talk about that is because there was a moment I remember around the year 2009, or sorry, maybe 2007 or 2008. I doubt it was 2009, but around that time frame, so that the listeners and maybe those who were also in the religious group, the movement, AHFI movement with me, they can pinpoint where they were. But at this time, I remember hearing about trafficking, human trafficking. I was in the Philippines, living in Calios or in Santo Angel in Laguna. I don't remember where I was living, but I remember in this period we would all go, all the members, all the men, to Patimbao, Laguna. It's also in Santa Cruz. And we would go there, all of us, because the priest, the main guy in charge after Father Bing, he would have recollections where he would meet with us and give like a special talk. And I remember him talking about a sister who was kidnapped by her parents and forcibly removed from the group. So I remember hearing about that and I was thinking, dang, that's kind of messed up. And that the parents of that sister were upset and saying that she didn't belong there. And then after that, he talked about GMA wanting to do like a special on our group. And I remember him saying something like this. Okay, brothers, we need to pray because GMA, they want to do a special, sorry, I always imitate. They want they want to do a special reporting on our group, on our brothers and sisters, and these parents are accusing us of human trafficking and of human slavery. So those things do not happen here. Amen. Amen. Those things do not happen here. So we need to pray that they stop what they're doing, because we are being persecuted. We are being attacked. As you see, my brothers, the closer we are to the cross, the more Satan tries to break us, the more Satan tries to persecute us. So, anyways, that's the end of my imitation of that priest. But the reason why I remember was because at that time, I wasn't really familiar with Filipino culture and pop culture, media. And when I heard GMA, I remember looking at the brother next to me and I asked him, "Wow, dude, Good Morning America wants to do a report on us. Wow, all right. Well, that's going to be interesting." And he looks at me, he's like, "Good Morning America?" No, dude, it's a Filipino media station. And I'm not sure what it stands for. I can't remember at this moment. But that's what stayed in my memory of GMA and human trafficking. And I was thinking, why would they do a reporting on us on human trafficking? All of us, we chose to be here. This is where God, not only did we choose, but God called us to be here. So why would they accuse us of human trafficking and human slavery? So for this episode, I want to dive deeper into this question: were we trafficked? So stick around. So now for this part of the episode, I want to take the standing point of we weren't trafficked. So let's say, just for our imagination, that I'm still a member. So let's say I'm still a member and you ask me, "Ryan, were you trafficked? Were you forced to be here? Is there human trafficking going on? Is there human slavery?" My answer would be absolutely not. We are not being trafficked. We all agreed to be here. We all signed, we all gave our vows, or we all gave our consent. And we knew that this was going to be a life of difficulty. We knew that this was going to be a life of carrying the cross. We knew that this was going to be a life which calls for perhaps moments of being persecuted, moments of being tested, moments where we're going to be to push to our limits. So we knew this. And so for that reason, I would say that it is not human trafficking and it is not human slavery. Now, let's stop right there. That's what my answer perhaps would have been back in the day. But now let us look at how I would answer it now. And I'm sorry, it's I need to now give more context, because if you listen to that first answer I give, all that I'm saying is that I chose this life, and now whatever happens, hey, it's going to be my fault because I made the decision to follow. I gave my yes. So whatever occurs to me, whatever happens to me, is on me. The leadership, don't blame them. That yet the yes that I gave my consent. So now I want to give my new perspective. Now that I'm out and now that I have more uh, experience and more understanding, I want to give a different answer. And I say more understanding because in the cult, in movements which are fanatic and where they do evolve into becoming cults, there is a a vision that they give you. So now we got to go back before I even joined, kind of like when you're going fishing, what is the bait? How do they recruit you? So the way I was recruited, one of the methods was by them telling me, "Wow, Ryan, you need to join us. This is where God is calling you. You're going to be one of the first Salvadorian priests of this movement. God is calling you to save your family. God is calling you to be a missionary. God is calling you to serve Him. Will you follow Christ, or will you ignore His call? And so, with that, with messages like that, I felt compelled to leave everything and to ask more questions. So, what's going to happen? Well, you're still in high school, Ryan. So, when you come to Delaware, your formation house, you're going to be finishing your high school, getting your education, and then you're going to be getting education to becoming a priest. And maybe one day you'll be also a missionary. So you also have to have your passport ready. So things like that really got my attention, because if you know me and if you followed my Instagram, you see that I've traveled to various locations. Traveling has been a strong part of my family, and that was something which really caught my attention. And I'm bringing that up because the old me would have said, hey, I agreed to this, I consented to this, so I gave my yes, and so now I'm here. There's nothing I can do about it. This is my place, and this is where I'm going to stay. But now, going back to the reality, you know how they threw the bait. That didn't happen. That life that they promised of getting an education, of becoming a missionary, that maybe sometimes they would allow me to do some missions here and there, but the majority of that time was spent in isolation, was spent in depression, was spent in being in a place where I forced myself to stay there. Because, especially in the beginning, I would ask, why am I doing these things? Why am I, like, example, just staying in the house doing nothing, or I mean, praying? Why am I doing this when I was promised that I would be doing something else? I would be getting an education. I would be traveling. I would be a missionary. That I would be getting some sort of good education. And yet I'm just here doing absolutely nothing while my parents are sending money, and the leadership, they're using that money for God knows what. So I'm bringing that up because, and that proves, at least in my case, I know other people may have other experiences, other survivors or other members, where perhaps they were told the truth right off the bat, but in my case, I wasn't. So in my case, I did not consent, because one of the requirements for consent is that you know what you are consenting to. So I'm bringing that up because old me would have said, well, I chose this life, so now I'm stuck. I can't do anything. But this all falls on me because I gave my yes. But that consent that I gave was hijacked, because the people who were proposing to me that I join for A, B, and C reasons, they did that without purity of intention, because they knew that they were manipulating the truth. They knew they were taking advantage of someone who was so eager to serve the Lord, someone who was so on fire to do good in this world. That's all I wanted to do good, and I maybe become a priest, and maybe if not, maybe just uh, do acts of kindness all over the world. I think that sounds pretty amazing. I want to do that. Yes, I'm gonna get an education. All right, like, and maybe go to Rome. Wow, this is exciting. All right, let's do it. And so, on face value, you can say that I said yes, that I consented. But if you dig deeper, if you remove the layers, you'll see that there was manipulation, that there was fraud. And another thing that I want to bring up was that I remember around the year 2012. No, It was the year 2012 when I decided that I've had enough, that my time was finished, that it's time for me to go home. And in that time, I was staying in Dover, Delaware, and our movement was getting canceled. I guess you could say was getting canceled by the diocese of Wilmington in Delaware. We were getting removed, kicked out, not allowed to be there. So as that was happening, I remember I had a hard time with the superiors because I saw that they were just so unapproachable. And for anything, everything, I'm just going to get in trouble. And, anyways, I needed to talk to somebody. So I spoke to the superior and I told them straightforward, you know what? I just want to say that I'm thankful for the many years that I've had here in this community, but my vows, my temporary vows, they are now expiring in a month, and I just want to let you know that it's time for me to go. I have personally discerned that this is not where God wants me, and I feel that I've prayed about it, and it's time for me to go back home and live a good, holy life back there and see where the Lord takes me. And I remember that the superior, he asked me, "Really? You want to, like, why do you really want to leave?" And I told them, "Look, man, I didn't sign up for this. I didn't sign up to be in isolation in solitary confinement. I didn't sign up to be in a conspiracy theory environment of paranoia 24/7, but yet because I took these vows of obedience, which I thought I consented to, I'm stuck. I can't do anything about it." And so the answer pretty much was like, yeah, you're right. You still are under those vows. Here are your tickets. Here are your plane tickets. We're going to send you now to the Philippines. So, like 2 days later, they sent me to the Philippines. And there I disappeared in the jungles in Carmen, Cebu, where, again, I felt trapped. So, yes, was I trafficked? I think that's an example, first of all, of going against my will. My will wasn't to go to the Philippines for to continue my religious life or my cult life. I already made it clear that I had discerned that this isn't where I belong. I had made it clear that I did not sign up for this. But then they brought that guilt. They brought that pain of, well, look at Jesus on the cross. You're going to say no to him? You gave your yes already. You already consented. You already gave him your vows. Even though they're temporary, I mean, they're pretty much life vows. So you're going to leave all that just because you discerned that this isn't where God wants you? Good luck. Good luck not being blessed. So it's like, damn, all right, well, shoot. Now it's like I'm being put under pressure. And this is what happens, I think, to many members. And this is why I'm bringing this up, because I want to remind other members who may have forgotten or may have felt guilty all these years. Like, oh man, uh, like some of the conversations that I've had of guilt are like, but I felt guilty for leaving because I left the cross, I left Christ, and that's what they want. Cults want you to feel guilty for leaving them. All right, so I hope I've been giving some good answers, helping to enlighten the conversation about whether I was trafficked or not. Now I want to ask the question, were we free to leave? Now, let's say once again, I ask Ryan, the old me, that question. Hey, Ryan, are you free to leave whenever you want? I would tell them, absolutely. I mean, we're free, but we have love for Christ. Our love for Christ is going to keep us here, and we're not going to leave because we know that if we leave, we are falling into the trap of Satan. So that was how I thought back then. Now, with some more wisdom, were we free to leave whenever you wanted? Absolutely not. Why? Because many of us, most of us, we had to submit our credentials, our documents. We had to submit our passports, our I don't know, our social security. Everything had to be surrendered, given to them, and then they'll keep it somewhere. And even though they say you're free to leave whenever you want, it's conditional. They'll say that, but at the same time, they'll add something like, but God's not going to bless you. You're going to lose your family. You want your family to go to hell? All right, go. So it really puts this duress, this pressure, this fear on the members. And I want to also bring to light that not all of the superiors were like that. There were actually some good superiors, good, but I mean not the best. But there were some superiors who did tell me, Ryan, if you want to leave, it's your choice, and that should be respected. And that when that was brought up to me, my mind was blown. It's like, wow, this priest is telling me that I have freedom of to choose. I have a right, and I'll be respected, and God will still. He's not going to hate me. So a lot of things were conflicting in my time there. But anyways, going back to the documentation, yes, many of us did have to surrender our papers, our passports, and sadly, this didn't happen to me, but it happened to other members, where especially with some of the sisters. I don't want to name names. I was very tempted, but there are some sisters who can't go home because the superiors are holding on to their passports. At least with me, when I ask for my passport back, they give it back, no problem. But I've heard reports of sisters over the years asking for their passports back, and it's not given to them. And they have to wait, and they have to really fight for it, really make, I don't want to say a scene, but really make it uncomfortable for the other sisters. It has also been reported that some sisters have had their visas, whether it be to America or to Australia, wherever, I don't know. But it's been reported to me that some sisters have had their visas, international visas, physically removed from their passports, meaning that those visas that were there had been ripped out. Destruction of property. And that's what the cult does. They punish you. It's like, okay, you want to leave? Okay, you're going to have two sorts of punishments. The first one is a spiritual one. You're going to not be blessed by God. You're going to be a misfit. You're going to be miserable for the rest of your life. And also, we're going to punish you by removing your visa. Or for another few members, I had been told that they were not given their passport, and the superiors kept making all of these ridiculous claims. Oh, we don't know where it is. We can't find it. Oh, it must have been misplaced. Playing games. And then they give the passport back to the ex-member when the visa has expired. That is trafficking, where you're forcing a person to stay, where you're punishing a person. And is it human slavery? I mean, for me, as I've said earlier, I didn't want to be there, and I made it damn clear that I have discerned, I have prayed about this. I know from the depths of my heart that this isn't where God wants me. And still, they sent me to the Philippines, forgot all about me, and there I'm expected to work and do all these things, but I don't want to work. I'm not getting paid. Then I'm getting punished for no reason. Yes, for no reason. It's ridiculous, but that's how toxic cults and abusive environments are. And so, to go back to the original question, Ryan Hernandez, were you trafficked? Was there human slavery? I can say absolutely yes. I was trafficked. I did go through human slavery, and maybe it's not the same as other stories. It's not. It's not a story that you hear every day, and it's not a story that I talk about every day. But I just want to bring awareness. And if you have a child still following the AHFI or Father Bing, I do urge you to please be careful, or please, call your son or daughter and reach out to them, because the environment that they're in is full of deception. The environment that they are in is full of lies and manipulation. And yes, maybe they are like me, where I did want to leave, but at the same time I couldn't because I didn't want my whole family to be doomed. So I forced myself to kind of stay, and plus they had my passport, so and they gave me my tickets. Here's your tickets, here's your passport, go to the Philippines. It's like, okay. So yes, if you have family still involved with the AFI, with Father Bing, please keep your eyes open. Don't let your faith be a blind faith where you ignore red flags, where you toss reason to the side. Pray about it, think about it. But if you're going to call your loved one who is still following Father Bing or another cult, it could be any other cult, one piece of advice: don't shut them down. I'll give you an example. Don't call and be like, Ryan, oh my gosh, I hear that you're in a cult. You need to get your ass out of there. What the hell are you doing? Are you stupid? No, because if you do that, now that person is going to be, their mind is going to go back to what they've learned in the cult. And that is, the training is that anytime anyone pushes against us or uh, says something, they're persecuting us. They're with Satan. That's an agent of Satan. This is spiritual warfare. We need to have our spiritual battle ready, and we need to shun them. We need to push them aside. So no, don't do that. That's my suggestion. That's my advice. Just my advice is for you to really think about what you're going to say, how you're going to say it, what is your tone going to be, and maybe even talk about other things. Talk about the beauties of life, talk about the joys of the family, and hopefully hopefully if you have a loved one in the cult, through kindness, through charity, and through patience, I just hope that they can come out, and just know that it is going to be a healing journey for many of them. It's going to be a lot of trauma for many of them, perhaps. But if you're a listener and you are in this scenario where now someone who is in a cult is coming out, I urge you to do it with love. Maybe there's going to be times where you feel angry, you feel pissed off at them. Don't let that anger, that frustration conquer you. Don't let that frustration ruin that relationship. Instead, work on building that relationship with your loved one, because the cult, they've already destroyed so much of that person's life. Now is the time to reconstruct that relationship. And hopefully, with this podcast episode, you have learned a lot about me. You have learned a lot about the Alliance of the Holy Family International and their culty ways, and how even though a group says, hey, we're Catholic, that, hey, keep your eyes open for the red flags And don't let your faith be blind. Always hold on to your reason, to your intuition, and I want to wish you all a beautiful day, a beautiful week, and a beautiful life. So that's it for today. I've been your host. This is Ryan Anthony on the Truth That Heals podcast. If you like, please follow me on YouTube. Follow me on Instagram. I'm also on Twitter, and I'm also been very active on TikTok. And yes, feel free to send me a message on any of those platforms. Any questions, feel free to ask because I'm trying to really grow and to connect with the audience. And hey, I'm also thinking about doing a Patreon. So please let me know, what should I add? What should I do? I've never done a Patreon like for real. So let's get busy. I want to get busy and I want you, the audience, those who listen, those who have been following me to join me in building a bigger, I don't know, a bigger, I don't want to say a cult, but a community where we can all work together and hopefully we can all find peace and love. Wishing you all the best from San Antonio, Texas. This is Ryan Anthony Hernandez. Have a beautiful day. Peace out.